How you doing, Book Spring Peace Bros? Today we're going to do movie adaptations for books. I have chosen 3 books in particular that have had movie adaptations that I'd like to point out. I want to point out things that they hit spot on and things that they could have done better on. Let's get right into it. First up is Misery, and I know I've covered this book a lot, but I think it's really worth it to see the movie because this is detrimental for Kathy Bates' career and James Caan. So let's get into it. We're going over the iconic hobbling scene, which is honestly one of the most thrilling parts in any of his novels. I love how it's really waiting for a long time. She does it so cleverly. Beautiful scenery. It's what Colorado is like.
But I'm having such a wonderful time. I have no other.
Paul.
So if you'd like me to stay and play some more for you, I'd love
I know you've been out.
So creepy. Oh my gosh.
What?
You've been out of your room.
Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata.
No, I haven't.
I think it's good.
Paul. My little ceramic penguin in the study always faces due south.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't think
Ceramic penguin.
the way he's tied up was exactly
Is this what you're
in the
looking
book, but they still did wonderfully with this scene.
for? I know you've been out twice, Paul. First I couldn't figure out how you did it. But last night, I found your key. I know I left my scrapbook out. I can imagine what you might be thinking of me. But you see, Paul, it's all okay. Last night it came so clear. I realize you just need more time. Eventually,
See,
you'll
she's
come
on
to
her
accept the idea of being
she's on her high for her bipolar disorder,
Paul, do you know about
and so the way
early
she's
days of
handling
Kimberly
it
Diamond Mine?
with such a grim subject is
Do
really
you know what
good.
they did to the native workers who stole diamonds? Don't
I
worry.
think the story
they
might be a
didn't kill
little
them.
off, or I could be
That would be
mistaken.
like junking a Mercedes just because it had a broken spring. No, if they caught them, they had to make sure they could go on working, but they also had to make sure they could never run away. The
I
operation
love the
was
orchestral
called
version of the
hobbling.
Moonlight Sonata. So I want to stop right here because she did not use whatever this is, a wooden block and a hammer, and that's a very big misconception for the novel. But what Annie actually does is a lot worse, and she gets a literal axe from her farm area and cuts his leg off. He has a little nub instead of like a broken ankle. He has an actual nub for what his leg used to be, and it goes even into worse detail of how she cauterized his wound with a flame torch while he's still conscious, and there's like not enough pain medication that she could give him for it. And I mean, it was just so vivid and so disturbing. And I remember he did like one of the best lines I've ever read. Like before she cut his leg off, she said, "Don't worry, Paul, I'm a registered nurse," or something along those lines. And I mean, that just really hit me. And I'm like, that's one of the best climaxes of a story I've ever read. And so I was a little disappointed when I saw that they didn't have the same hobbling, but I think it still worked out really well. And you can't always have the exact same thing in a book for a movie because they're supposed to be different. It's always about the director's rendition of it. And so I love this scene. I love the orchestral version of the Moonlight Sonata, but I'm not sure if it would have been best for this one. I mean, I can think of a lot of different other pieces that would have been as dramatic, if not more. Next up, we're going to do Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children, and it's been, now give me a little bit, because it's been a while since I read this book, and they definitely did a different version of the ending, but I still think they did a really good job at it. And so, let's watch it. It's a little shorter, but we can still get it.
Gotta deal with Baron.
Them brains, here I come!
I love their makeup.
Jane,
I'll hold him up as long as
are
I
you
can.
going to realize you are terrible shot with that thing? Ah!
Get the others. I'll meet you at the loop entrance.
Ah! Ah! Eventually, you're going to run out of breath, and it'll all be over. Death for your beloved Jake and Miss Peregrine, everlasting life for me, ew, and dement for you.
And if I'm not mistaken, I believe the end of this book took place in a lighthouse. I'm not 100% sure. And the way they did the ending, I sort of got lost near the ending, but they had a very similar plot, and there's not much I could distinguish between it. Yes, there was a lighthouse, and I feel like in the book it was a lot more dark than the ending, because the ending was visually much brighter than, and I love all the character renditions. I think it's beautifully done. The landscaping's amazing, and overall I think it was a beautiful transition, and I really don't have much to comment, in all honesty. I think I'm going to leave it at that. Except, I haven't read any books after this, but I think they added more to the plot. I think they added more to the plot in the movie than they did in the book, or at least I wasn't reading enough. I mean, this was years ago, so who can tell? Last up, we have The Boy in Striped Pajamas, and don't worry, I'm not going to play the full ending because I know how disturbing it is, but I definitely want to touch into some of the things that they really emphasized in this film rendition, and so let's get into it. You can visually see the distress on their face. The pushing, the rain. I can't tell necessarily for the quality, but I've read a lot of other World War II books and how dirty some of them were, because they didn't shower very often. I love how there's no voices, and I mean, it's really sad to think about it, but like, the fact that it's only music. Okay, I'm gonna stop it right there, because I remember in the book, it doesn't go into this, because I think they just added this scene entirely, because it was more so they were loaded into this place, and that was it. They were never seen from again. I think that's the last word in the book. But it really hinted into what actually happened. And so the visual scene of this is just so grim and so dark. I cried when I saw this. Oh my gosh. Oh, it really tore my heart out when I saw it. They just made it so dramatic, and the way that the lady knew that her son passed in the rain, I mean, it's really dark, and I love that they added this. And so, one thing I should clarify is that some movies do need to add stuff from books that weren't there. Now, sometimes they can get a little overboard with that stuff and be completely different from the book, and that would not be a good thing. But there are a lot of times need to be changes in order for it to be a rendition that has the same message from the book to a movie. I think for this movie, it was a really good decision for them to do that, because by simply loading them into one place and just ending it right there wouldn't be dramatic enough. they had to visually carry what it was written, because it was entirely on the reader's responsibility for this to have the burden of when they were reading it. But this is all up to motion picture. And so I'm not going to finish the clip because I don't want to start crying and I don't want to get demonetized for anything, which I don't think I can, but still. I think it was worth it. And for most of this movie, I think I remember some of the stuff being changed a little bit. And it's been a while since I read this. It's been a really long time. And I mean, a lot of these books, I don't have much to say because they have good film renditions of them. I'll try to do a better job next time trying to find books that could have worked a lot better with their film renditions. But as for this right now, I think it did a really good job. The orchestra was phenomenal. I think that decision was really, really good. And I'm not a film critic, but I think a lot of the times actions say more than words, especially in stuff like this. That's all I have for today. Thank you.